The bridge of the Aurora Ascendant was unusually quiet as Commander Leona Harker stared at the shimmering hologram of the nebula displayed before her. It was a kaleidoscope of swirling greens and purples, beautiful and deadly, its dense electromagnetic storms capable of tearing apart even the sturdiest vessels. Somewhere within that cosmic tempest lay Epsilon 7, an outpost that hadn't been seen or heard from in over 2 centuries until now. "Commander, the signal has stabilized," said Lieutenant Mira Cade, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. Repeating every 60 seconds, "Audio and data feed are intact." "Play it," Harker ordered, folding her arms across her chest. The message crackled to life, distorted but unmistakable. "Distress, warning, containment breach. Do not approach. Repeat, do not." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence on the bridge. "It's looping," Kate added. "There's no indication of a live source." This could be an automated signal, but the encryption matches old Earth protocols. "Very old, Commander. This outpost predates the first expansion." "Ghosts from humanity's past," murmured Dr. Elias Sado, the team's historian and anthropologist. "Epsilon 7 was a classified installation, wasn't it? Lost during the Cataclysm Wars." "Classified," Harker confirmed, her tone sharp. "And forgotten for good reason. The records we do have are fragmentary at best. Whatever they were doing out there, someone wanted it buried. And now it's calling us back," said Lieutenant Connor Vance, the ship's tactical officer. "This feels like a trap, Commander." Harker didn't disagree, but orders were orders. The United Systems Coalition had intercepted the signal 2 weeks ago and deemed it worth investigating. With rising tensions across the galactic frontiers, any remnant of pre-cataclysm technology could provide humanity with a crucial edge. "What do we know about the outpost?" Harker asked. Dr. Sado tapped his console, bringing up a fragmented schematic of Epsilon 7. It was an R&D station situated in an uninhabitable system. No habitable planets, no known resources, nothing to attract attention. The perfect place for Black Ops experiments. There's speculation about bioweapons, advanced AI, maybe even antimatter research. But whatever it was, it's been sitting untouched for over 200 years. If the signal just started now, something changed. "Something woke up," Vance said grimly. A shiver ran down Harker's spine, but she buried it under years of discipline. "Cade, plot a course through the outer edge of the nebula. Keep us at a safe distance until we get a better read on the environment. Sado, I want every scrap of data on Epsilon 7 ready by the time we arrive. And Vance, double-check our defensive systems. If this is a trap, we're not walking in unarmed." As the crew moved to carry out her orders, Harker allowed herself a moment to stare at the swirling nebula again. Whatever lay within Epsilon 7 wasn't just a piece of humanity's history. It was something forgotten, something buried. And now it was calling them back. The Aurora Ascendant emerged from the edge of the nebula, its reinforced shields crackling with residual energy from the storm. Ahead, silhouetted against the swirling colors, loomed Epsilon 7. The station was massive, its skeletal structure spanning miles in every direction. Its angular design spoke of a bygone era, efficient, utilitarian, and devoid of aesthetic flair. "Bringing us into docking position," Lieutenant Cade announced, her hands moving fluidly over the controls. Commander Harker studied the station from the viewport, her unease growing. Despite the centuries of abandonment, the outpost looked disturbingly intact. No visible damage, no signs of decay, only the faint glimmer of external lights, flickering erratically like a dying heartbeat. "Scans show no life signs," Dr. Sado reported, his tone a mix of relief and curiosity. "But there's power in the core. Not much, but enough to maintain basic functions. Whatever is keeping this place alive, it's ancient and impressive." "And the source of the signal?" Harker asked. It's coming from the central command hub, Seda replied. There's an encrypted data stream embedded in the transmission. If we can access the station's systems, we might be able to decode it. Commander, I've got something, Vance interrupted, his voice tense. Energy spikes in the docking bay. Looks like automated systems are cycling up. I don't think this station likes uninvited guests. Noted, Harker said. Cade, bring us in. Carefully. The Aurora Ascendant docked with a metallic thud, the station's clamps locking it in place. As the airlocks aligned, a hiss of pressurization filled the ship, followed by an ominous silence. Harker donned her helmet, her voice calm but firm as she addressed her team. Stay sharp. This station's been sitting here for centuries, but it's not dead. We move as a unit, and we don't touch anything unless I say so. Understood? A chorus of affirmatives came through the comms. The airlock doors slid open, revealing the dark, sterile corridors of Epsilon 7. The team stepped inside, their boots echoing on the metal floor. The station was cold, the air stale and heavy with an unidentifiable tang. It's like a tomb, Seda whispered, his voice barely audible over the comms. No, Vance muttered, scanning the area with his rifle. Tomes feel less alive. As they moved deeper into the station, faint lights flickered to life, casting eerie shadows along the walls. The signs of abandonment were everywhere, scattered tools, overturned chairs, and personal belongings left behind in haste. Commander, Cade said, stopping by a rusted console. There's something here. Harker joined her, staring at the screen. It displayed a single message, written in jagged, corrupted text. You should not have come. Before anyone could react, a low hum filled the corridor, growing louder. The lights overhead flickered violently, and the station systems seemed to stir. Commander, Vance barked, his voice tight with urgency. We've got movement. Something's waking up. The hum intensified, reverberating through the walls of Epsilon 7 like the awakening growl of a slumbering beast. The flickering lights cast erratic shadows that seemed almost alive, stretching and twisting as if mocking the intruders. Everyone, stay together. Commander Harker ordered, her voice firm despite the tension knotting in her chest. She gestured to Lieutenant Vance to take point. Vance, keep scanning. If it moves and it's not one of us, I want to know about it. Copy that, Commander, Vance replied, his grip tightening on his plasma rifle. The team pressed forward cautiously, their footsteps muffled on the cold, metallic floor. The corridor widened into a massive chamber, its walls lined with dormant machinery and broken terminals. At its center was a cylindrical structure, massive, towering, and pulsating faintly with dim red light. That must be the central core, Dr. Sato murmured, his voice awed. It's still operational after all this time. Incredible. And probably dangerous, Vance muttered, his eyes sweeping the room. Lieutenant Cade approached the nearest terminal, brushing away a layer of dust. The systems are ancient, but they're responding to my interface. I think I can access the core. Careful, Harker warned. We don't know what kind of failsafes this place has. As Cade worked, the red light from the core began to intensify, casting the room in a blood-like glow. A series of mechanical clicks echoed through the chamber, followed by the sound of gears grinding back to life. Commander, Vance said, his voice tight. We've got company. From the shadows, a dozen small drones emerged, their sleek, angular designs gleaming under the crimson light. They hovered silently for a moment before their optical sensors lit up, locking onto the intruders. Defensive units, Sato muttered, stepping back. They don't look friendly, Vance said, raising his weapon. Hold your fire, Harker snapped. They haven't attacked yet. The drones began to circle, their movements erratic but coordinated, like wolves sizing up their prey. A voice crackled to life over the team's comms, cold and mechanical yet eerily human. You are unauthorized. Leave now or face termination. It's the AI, Cade whispered, her hands frozen over the terminal. It's still active. Identify yourself, Harker demanded, her tone commanding. There was a pause, then the voice responded. I am JNUS. Primary directive. Safeguard the integrity of this installation. Secondary directive. Neutralize intruders. Neutralize intruders? Vance echoed. Yeah, we're firing now. Wait. Harker barked, holding up a hand. JNUS, we're not here to harm the station. We're investigating the signal. Can you stand down? Another pause, then JNUS replied. Access granted to central systems will reveal intent. Approach with caution. The drones retreated slightly, but their sensors remained locked on the team. Harker gestured to Cade. Get us into the core, quickly. As Cade resumed her work, the rest of the team stood on edge, weapons ready. The core pulsed brighter, and Harker couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stepped into something far larger and far deadlier than any of them had imagined. The humming from the central core grew louder, vibrating through the floor like a heartbeat. Each pulse seemed to reverberate in the very air, and the drones continued their slow orbit around the team, their glowing sensors unwavering, though they had not yet made any aggressive moves. Harker kept her focus on the terminal, watching as Cade's fingers moved rapidly over the interface, her brow furrowed in concentration. The tension in the room was palpable. Every second felt like it might ignite into violence. How much longer, Lieutenant? Harker asked, her voice tight with impatience. I'm in, Cade replied, her tone clipped. Accessing the central systems now. It's complex. This system is old, but it has a level of encryption I haven't seen before. It's almost as if they didn't want anyone to ever touch this. Harker felt a chill run down her spine. That didn't sound promising. Keep at it, but stay alert. She glanced around, her eyes narrowing as she surveyed the room once more. The drones were still circling, their movements more deliberate now, as if they were anticipating a sudden change. Commander, Vance whispered from the far side of the room, I'm not liking this. We're standing in the middle of a weapons facility, and I'm getting a weird feeling about those drones. They've been quiet too long. Before Harker could respond, the room trembled violently, as if the very foundation of the station was awakening from a deep slumber. The drones jolted into motion, darting into tighter formations around the team, their weapons charging with a menacing hum. Warning, JNUS cold, mechanical voice echoed throughout the room. Unauthorized access detected. Initiating defense protocols. Without another word, the drones descended upon them, their weapons glowing bright and ready to fire. Shields up, Harker shouted, drawing her plasma sidearm and taking cover behind a bulkhead. The first shot rang out, bright, crackling plasma streaking through the air, but the team was quick to react. Vance fired in return, his shots cutting through the air, but the drones were agile, dodging with unnatural precision. Stay in cover, Harker ordered, her voice steady even as she fired at a drone trying to flank them. The shot hit its target, sending the drone into a violent spin before it crashed into the wall. We need to get control of this station now. Cade, still glued to her terminal, typed furiously, her face lit by the flickering light from the interface. I'm close, but there's a failsafe in place. The station is locking down the central systems. We don't have much time, Vance growled, dropping to a crouch and firing again. How long till you crack it? 2 minutes, maybe less, Cade replied, her voice a little more strained. That's too long, Sato exclaimed, ducking behind a console as another volley of plasma fire ricocheted off the walls. The drones were relentless, their weapons charging with deadly precision. Harker felt the air around them crackle with tension, every moment teetering on the brink of catastrophe. But she knew they couldn't keep this up for long. The station's power was growing more erratic, and the drones were adapting to their every move. Lieutenant Cade, Harker shouted again, now or we're dead. The technician's fingers paused for a moment, sweat beading on her forehead as she glanced up at the advancing drones. Finally, she hit a key, and the terminal screen flashed green. "I've unlocked the mainframe. You're good, Commander." Before Harker could respond, the core at the center of the room pulsed once more, this time brighter than ever. The drones froze mid-air, their weapons lowering. Then, as suddenly as it had all begun, the station fell into an eerie silence. "JNUS?" Harker asked, her voice cautious. "System offline." The voice echoed, its usual coldness replaced with an unsettling, almost weary tone. "Directive complete. All primary functions disabled." Harker exhaled in relief, though her instincts told her this was only the beginning. "Report," she barked to the team. Cade was the first to respond, still catching her breath. "I've unlocked full access to the station. Whatever JNUS was programmed to do, it's over. We're in control now." But as the team gathered around, the room's ominous hum persisted in the background, pulsing softly, almost like a warning. "This station's secrets aren't finished with us yet," Harker murmured, her eyes narrowing at the flickering terminal screens. "Let's see what it has to offer." The eerie silence that followed the cessation of the drone's attack was almost worse than the firefight. The pulsing hum of the core filled the room, accompanied only by the sound of labored breaths from the team. Commander Harker stood at the center, eyes locked on the flickering terminal screen where Cade had just unlocked the system. "Keep your eyes peeled," Harker ordered, scanning the dimly lit room. "Whatever JNUS was protecting, it hasn't been fully revealed." Cade nodded, still staring at the interface. Her fingers hovered above the keys as the system rebooted, recovering from the previous lockdown. The walls of the central chamber seemed to grow closer, the air thick with tension, and the faint red light cast long, haunting shadows across the room. "I'm in," Cade said, tapping several keys with increasing urgency. "There's a secondary archive, hidden deep in the system, encrypted beyond anything I've ever seen. Whatever it is, it's locked away for a reason." Harker stepped closer, peering over Cade's shoulder as the screen flashed with multiple layers of data. Lines of text scrolled by too quickly for her to read, but her instincts told her this wasn't just a technical glitch. This was intentional. "Can you decrypt it?" Harker asked. "I can try," Cade replied, but her voice carried an edge of doubt. "This encryption, it's not like anything we've encountered. It's almost sentient." "Sentient?" Harker raised an eyebrow. "Are you telling me the encryption is alive?" "It's not alive in the traditional sense," Cade explained, her eyes narrowing. "But it reacts to our attempts to break it. It's adaptive, constantly shifting, like it's learning." She glanced up at the team. Whoever built this station didn't want this information to be found. Not by anyone. "Which means it's something we need to find," Vance added, his tone grim. "There's no way we're walking away without knowing what's buried here." The sudden low rumble of the station's engines coming to life made the air crackle with anticipation. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, and the faint glow of the central core brightened again. "Hold on, something's happening," Cade said, her fingers moving rapidly over the console. "The system's fighting me. It's like it's trying to push us out. Whatever this data is, it's refusing to let me access it." Harker stepped back, considering their options. She didn't like the idea of wasting time with a fight they couldn't win. The station had already shown it was capable of defending itself, and now it was fighting back in a more sophisticated way. "I want you to keep working on it, Cade," Harker ordered. "We need this information, but stay sharp, everyone." She turned to the rest of the team. "Vance, check the perimeter. Sato, see if there's anything useful in the secondary systems. We're not leaving until we know what this place is hiding." Vance nodded and moved to the far side of the room, his rifle scanning the shadows, while Sato stepped toward a bank of secondary consoles near the back. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Cade worked faster, her fingers flying across the keys as she fought against the encryption. "I found a break," she said suddenly, eyes wide with determination. "I'm through the first layer. There's more." A data log, it's... But before she could finish, the room's lights flickered violently and the station's hum intensified again. A sharp, mechanical voice echoed throughout the chamber. Unauthorized access detected. Commencing lockdown. All personnel are to be terminated. The floor shook violently, and the walls seemed to close in on them as heavy shutters slammed down, sealing off exits and trapping the team inside. The central core's light flickered erratically, as if the station itself was protesting their intrusion. "Not again," Vance shouted, diving for cover as more drones, larger, more menacing this time, emerged from hidden compartments in the walls. Their designs were sleek and sharp, and their weapons glowed with the promise of destruction. "Get down," Harker barked. "Cade, keep working. We'll hold them off." The drones began charging, their weapons ready to fire. The team opened fire first, plasma shots shrieking through the air in retaliation. But the drones were faster, more agile, and this time, they adapted to their every move. Harker gritted her teeth, taking cover behind a support column as she returned fire. "I won't let them bury this," she muttered under her breath. "Not after everything we've been through." Cade's fingers moved even faster, sweat dripping down her face. Almost there, just a little longer. The drones circled, their weapons locking onto the team with deadly precision, and the pressure continued to mount. Harker's mind raced. She knew time was running out. If Cade couldn't break through, they might never learn the true nature of what had brought Epsilon 7 to life after so many years. The drones were closing in fast, their glowing weaponry humming with menace. The team's plasma shots landed with intense flashes of light, but the drones' rapid, unpredictable movements made it almost impossible to land a hit. "Stay focused," Harker barked as she dropped behind another support column, narrowly dodging a barrage of plasma fire that seared the air beside her. She squeezed off a shot at the closest drone, her pulse quickening as the projectile missed by a fraction of an inch. "Cade, you're running out of time." Cade's fingers flew across the terminal, sweat dripping down her forehead as the encryption fought back harder than before. The air in the room felt heavier, as though the entire station was pressing against them, refusing to yield. Each passing moment seemed to drag the team deeper into a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Cade started, but her voice was drowned out by the roar of an explosion. One of the drones detonated as Vance's shot found its mark, but the damage was minimal. The drones didn't flinch. They kept coming, their precision unwavering. "Cade." Harker snapped again, her voice tightening with urgency. She peered around the corner, watching the drones inch closer. "I need that access now. I'm trying." Cade's voice cracked under the pressure. "The encryption is evolving faster than I can keep up. It's using the station's energy against me." "What the hell is going on in there?" Vance grunted as he ducked behind a pillar, reloading his rifle. "Whatever's locked in this system is resisting our efforts," Cade explained through gritted teeth, eyes flashing to the drones that were now circling them like vultures. "I think the station is actively rewriting its own defense protocols. It doesn't want us to learn its secrets." "Then we need to give it a reason to stop fighting us," Harker muttered, her mind racing. She fired off another burst at a drone, hitting it this time. It staggered but recovered quickly, pivoting on its axis with terrifying speed. "Don't shoot it," Cade shouted, her face flushed with fear. "We need them to stop, not destroy them." Harker hesitated, her heart pounding. "Then what do you suggest, Cade?" But before Cade could answer, the floor trembled beneath their feet again. The central core began to pulse with a new intensity, the lights flickering in response. The drones hesitated for just a moment, as though receiving new orders. Then they halted completely. The silence was deafening. For a moment, the team stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. Then, the voice of JNUS echoed through the room once again. "Directive has been overridden. Primary access granted. The truth must be known." Harker's breath caught in her throat as the cold, calculating voice of JNUS resonated through the space. There was no warning, no announcement. The walls around them seemed to shift, the hum of the core becoming louder and more focused. A large compartment in the back wall slid open with a mechanical hiss, revealing a series of large metallic doors. "You did it," Harker said, a faint sense of disbelief creeping into her voice. "Cade, you broke through." Cade, still breathing heavily, stared at the terminal in shock. I did, but I don't know what this means. This isn't just data, it's a map. A map to something, something big." "We don't have time to puzzle it out," Harker said, rallying the team. "We're going in. Whatever's in there, we need to find it and get out." Vance, his eyes locked on the now still drones, took a step forward. "But the drones, why did they stop?" "They're waiting for us," Sato said, his voice low. "They're not here to fight anymore. They're here to guide us." Harker turned to the others, her jaw set. "Then we'll follow them. Stay sharp." The team cautiously approached the sliding doors, each step echoing in the stillness of the room. The drones remained in place, silent sentinels, their sensors trained on them, but offering no resistance. As the door opened with a soft hiss, an overwhelming sense of foreboding swept over them. The room beyond was dark, save for the pale blue light that emanated from a series of complex alien devices mounted to the walls. Holographic projections flickered above the devices, mapping out data that was incomprehensible to the team. Harker stepped forward, her hand resting on the cold surface of a nearby console. "This is it. This is what they were hiding." The map on the hologram shifted, revealing something that made Harker's stomach drop. The coordinates led to a distant region of the galaxy, far beyond any known charted system. This is a way to the core of the galaxy," Cade said, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "If this is what I think it is, it's a path to something more ancient than anything we've ever encountered." "Then it's not just a legacy we're reviving," Harker murmured, her eyes locked on the map. "It's the future." Suddenly, a bright flash of light erupted from the far side of the room. The team instinctively reached for their weapons as the door behind them slammed shut, locking them in. The holograms flickered once more. And then, the true nature of the station's deadly legacy revealed itself. The room trembled again, this time with more force as the flashing light grew brighter, more intense. The holograms, once seemingly harmless, now shifted into more tangible forms. Blueprints, schematics, and alien symbols that made Harker's mind race to keep up. They were no longer just visual projections. The station was transforming, activating its final protocol. "Stay on your toes," Harker ordered, her voice taut with tension. She motioned for the team to spread out, scanning the darkened room for any sign of movement. The air crackled with energy as a low hum began to resonate through the walls. The sound was like a heartbeat, distant but steadily growing louder. The ground beneath them vibrated with a strange force. It was as though the station itself was alive, awakening from a long slumber. Suddenly, the central console flared to life, casting a cold, blue light across the room. The map that had once seemed like a distant dream now looked all too real, its coordinates pulsing with a steady rhythm. The galaxy was laid bare before them, but it was the area marked at the very core of the map that drew Harker's attention, the heart of the galaxy itself, a place where no one had ventured before, not even the most daring explorers. "This map, it's pointing us to the heart of the galaxy," Cade said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But why? What's there?" "I don't know," Harker replied, her gut churning with unease. "But it's no coincidence we're here. The station's activation, it's more than just a retrieval mission. Whatever's in that location, it's bigger than all of us." Vance stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. "The drones are still here, but they're not attacking. They're waiting." Sato, still near the wall, was staring intently at a console across the room. "This station, it's not just an outpost. It's a key to something far greater." The voice of JNUS rang out once more, this time with an edge of urgency. Final activation sequence commencing. All systems are now online. You are ready to proceed. The path to the core awaits. Before Harker could react, the walls of the room began to shift. A large, circular door in the center of the room slid open, revealing an elevator shaft descending into the depths below. The walls of the shaft were lined with alien symbols, glowing faintly as if warning them not to go any further. Cade stared at the door, her hands still trembling as she clutched her weapon. This is it, the heart of the station. But what happens when we go down there? What's waiting for us? Harker took a step forward, her resolve hardening. There's only one way to find out. With a deep breath, she led the team into the shaft. The air grew colder as they descended, the lights dimming until they were swallowed by darkness. Only the faint glow of the symbols on the walls illuminated their path. The deeper they went, the heavier the atmosphere became. It was as though the weight of the station itself was pressing down on them. Each floor they descended taking them further from safety and closer to whatever ancient force lay below. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The elevator finally slowed, coming to a stop at the lowest level. The doors opened to reveal a vast, cavernous chamber, bathed in an eerie green glow. The air smelled stale, but there was a strange energy in the room, an electric charge that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. At the far end of the chamber stood a massive structure, its surface covered in the same alien symbols they had seen throughout the station. It was a towering monolith, a monument to an ancient civilization that had long since faded from history. "That's it," Cade whispered, her voice trembling. "That's what they were hiding." Harker felt a sense of awe wash over her. The structure wasn't just a relic, it was a monument to something far older and far more powerful than anything they could comprehend. The symbols on the monolith seemed to pulse in time with their heartbeats, as if acknowledging their presence. But it wasn't the structure itself that captured their attention. It was the hum, the low, resonant sound emanating from deep within the monolith. It was as if something inside was awakening, slowly but surely, after millennia of dormancy. Harker's fingers tightened around her weapon. "This isn't just a relic," she muttered. "It's a weapon, and whatever it is, we need to be ready for it." As the team cautiously approached the monolith, the ground beneath them suddenly vibrated with an intensity they had never felt before. The hum grew louder, reverberating through their bones. And then, with a crack of energy that echoed throughout the chamber, the monolith began to shift. The symbols on its surface glowed brighter, and the air thickened with power. Slowly, impossibly, the monolith began to open, revealing a dark, cavernous interior, an entrance into the unknown. For a moment, the team stood frozen, unsure of what they were about to face. But they all knew one thing for certain: the journey into the heart of the galaxy was only beginning. The monolith's massive doors creaked open, their movement slow and deliberate, as though the ancient structure itself was considering the gravity of what was about to transpire. The air crackled with an unearthly energy, a tension so thick it felt like the very atmosphere was alive, watching, waiting. Harker motioned for the team to stay close. The glow from the monolith intensified, casting long shadows that danced across the cavern's walls, revealing glimpses of strange symbols and alien architecture that had long been forgotten. The team's footsteps echoed in the silent chamber, the rhythmic sound barely cutting through the overwhelming hum that now filled the space. "Stay sharp," Harker whispered, her voice tight. The others nodded, their faces grim, their weapons raised and ready. As they stepped across the threshold, the air shifted, becoming heavier with each step. The darkness inside the monolith was unlike anything they'd experienced. There were no lights, only the faintest glow from the symbols that now seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The deeper they went, the more the monolith seemed to come alive, as though it were reacting to their presence, acknowledging their approach. Cade led the way, her eyes scanning the walls, her mind racing with questions. This is unlike anything we've seen before. It's like the station systems are all interconnected with this structure. Vance's voice came low and gruff. Feels like we're walking into the heart of a warship. But why go to such lengths to hide it? Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled again, more violently this time. A low, rumbling growl echoed through the chamber, reverberating off the walls. The glow from the symbols flared, and for a brief moment, the chamber was bathed in an eerie green light. Then, from the center of the monolith, a large platform began to rise, its surface covered in intricate carvings that shimmered in the dark. As the platform ascended, the air filled with the distinct hum of ancient machinery coming to life. A soft, mechanical whirring sounded, and an image began to project from the center of the platform, an enormous holographic map of the galaxy. But this time, it was different. The map was alive, shifting, changing, showing not just stars and planets, but a network of pathways leading deeper into the galaxy. This is it, Cade breathed. This is the map we saw on the station's terminal, but it's more detailed. It's showing us routes, ways to move through the galaxy that we've never known existed. It's not just a map, Sato said, his voice tinged with awe. It's a guide, a way forward. But as they watched the map unfold, something else emerged from the platform, a shape, a figure, coalescing in the center of the holographic projection. It was tall, humanoid, but alien, its form bathed in the same greenish light that illuminated the room. Its face was obscured, but its presence radiated power, ancient and unyielding. The figure's voice, when it spoke, was not heard through their ears, but felt in the very core of their beings. You have come to awaken what should remain forgotten. The legacy of the first civilization, the creators of the paths you seek. Harker's heart raced. She had anticipated this moment, had even known in the back of her mind that they were not alone in this chamber, but the reality of it hit her like a thunderclap. You are the guardians of the path, the figure continued, its voice resonating like the wind across a vast expanse. And the path is fraught with peril. Those who seek what you have uncovered risk unleashing destruction upon all that lives. The secrets of the first civilization are not meant for those unworthy of their power. Cade, still trying to process the magnitude of the situation, stepped forward. Who are you? What is this place? The figure did not move, but its presence seemed to grow stronger, almost suffocating. I am the Sentinel, the last of my kind, bound to guard this knowledge. The first civilization did not perish by accident. It fell because it sought to control that which should never be controlled. The power within these maps, within the structure you now stand in, is not a gift, it is a curse. Vance raised an eyebrow. So what? You want us to just turn around and leave? The figure's voice shifted, darkening. No, you will not turn back, but you will face the consequences of your actions. The legacy will awaken, and the galaxy will tremble. You cannot unlearn what you have learned. You cannot return to ignorance. The holographic map shifted again, showing the locations of 1,000 different systems, each one marked with a symbol, some pulsating, others flickering. These were no ordinary star systems. They were the remnants of civilizations long gone, their once great structures now nothing more than shattered husks. You are at the crossroads of history, the figure continued. What you do next will decide the fate of the galaxy. Choose wisely, or all will be lost. With those final words, the figure's image began to fade, and the monolith's doors slammed shut behind them. The chamber darkened once more, leaving them in stunned silence. Cade turned to Harker, her voice barely audible. What do we do now? Harker stood frozen for a moment, then slowly exhaled, her hand resting on her weapon. The weight of their discovery, of what lay ahead, was overwhelming, but there was no going back. We keep moving forward, she said finally. Whatever this legacy is, we have to understand it. And if we're the ones to wield it, then we need to be ready. The team exchanged uncertain glances but nodded. They had no choice now. The path was set, and as the chamber darkened around them, the weight of the galaxy's fate pressed down on their shoulders.